Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for stopping by. First off, I should just bring us up to date here. As you know, in the last couple of videos, I've discussed an international living conference coming up, and one of the pages at their website talking about visas for Panama refer to our friendly visa as one where you put in $5,000 in a bank account in order to get a visa. That is not true anymore. That visa is gone. It's misleading. It's just wrong information. And I said we try to get word through to them, and we succeeded, as far as I know. And that is, spoke with someone who knows them well and has a very positive relationship with them that goes back a long time. And she's a lawyer. She's a Panamanian. She understands how things are done here, and you know what the law is. And we pointed it out to her, and she thanked us and said, yes, she is not in charge of this. This is not her responsibility. This is theirs. It's for them to decide how they're going to put this stuff over the web. But she said, yes, she would let them know, and so it could be corrected. Nothing's happened. It's been almost 2 weeks. I'm just going to forget it. I've done what I can, For those of you, if any of you are coming down for the conference, really try to focus on what you hear when you're in the presentations on Saturday and Sunday, not necessarily what you hear outside those venues. But the public statements are always the ones that are the best ones to listen to at gatherings like that, because there are other witnesses to them. It's better that way. Anyhow, and they can be very useful. I've never criticized people who come down for conferences or have visited them up in the U.S. or Europe when they're held there. I mean, why not? It makes no sense to me to criticize people for doing their best to get as much information as possible before making a serious and important decision to them. So be it. But I do want to think they're being well treated. That's an important point as far as I'm concerned. Now, moving right along, I should mention one thing. I mentioned the National Climate Action Plan in the last video, and it brought in, as usual, anytime climate change comes up, I get a half a dozen comments made that are quite strongly worded and would be seen as aggressive. Both sides are all four sides, and there are different opinions of this thing. They're quite strongly presented and so on. This is not the right place for them. And as I've explained it before, and there's a lot of new folks who are here, and they don't understand it. I stay clear of the politics of these situations completely. This is not the appropriate place to discuss them. I bring up and talk about the climate here because it is an issue in Panama, because we now have a National Climate Action Plan, and it is being implemented. The first steps are underway for sure, and one of those was to question a big project that was on the verge of moving forward and now is stopping for a moment here because it doesn't have its environmental report done, and it should. I mean, I understand where it is. I know what they're talking about, and they darn well better get their study done. I mean, it's absurd. So we can't have an action plan and then not implement it. So it's going to be implemented bit by bit. It will be done in discussions with everybody, and there's not going to be just arbitrary decisions coming down from above. We're much more of a community in that sense. So there'll be plenty of public input on all particular sides, but we're going to move forward proactively to do what we can to get a good reputation. It happens to be a very powerful tool in attracting people to the country, not only as tourists, but more as business people too, who are now also taking this very seriously. And the fact that we're taking it seriously makes it easier for them, and we all fit together quite well. That will be discussed more in the Bloomberg conference, which is coming up next month, and we'll be bringing business people in from all over the world. We're interested in Latin America as a market, and that's going to be very, very important that we are the ones to host it this time. It's a nice way to get the convention center off with a good start by an international conference of this particular type. And we've worked hard. The administration here has worked very, very hard. I'm not politically motivated at all here. As far as I'm concerned, the Panamanians are the ones who make those decisions. But I will praise the administration for having a real focused action plan for getting the economy going again that involved bringing in money from outside, because we're not going to grow without outside money. We don't print our own. Okay, so we have to earn it and we have to bring it in. And I think I should say, have done a very good job of that so far. And this, one of the special things is for this to be coming here. So this is a good time for that respect. However, as far as this goes, if you do feel, if you send in something that's pretty strongly worded and it could cause somebody else to come right back with another response, it's not going to get published. I just do that in politics across the board. We're not, I've had this with the war in Europe, or Ukrainian war. I mean, this isn't the place for that. I'm sorry. So I understand that people in North America and Europe in particular are going through a difficult period in their lives. And there's a lot of this going on, and there's some very strong feelings being expressed. Here we try to focus on what's happening in Panama, how Panama is looking at it, how they're approaching it, because this is where you're thinking of living. And if you don't like the approach that's being taken here, this is not the right place then, possibly, for you. I don't think that's necessarily the case for most people, or 99% of you, I assume. I don't know. But that's a decision for you to make. This country's made its decision, and actually some time ago, but now they're actually putting flesh on the bones, so to speak, and getting this thing going. So my apologies to anyone who feels offended if their comments aren't published, but I may even agree with you, but it's not the point. We're just trying to keep it simple here. Questions I get often relate to, well, right now, inflation. Do we feel inflation? And everybody in Panama, I mean, it's just like the U.S. and everywhere else I've gone. Are prices going up too much? Yes, absolutely. Just everybody thinks inflation is a terrible problem 100% of the time. But in a time like this, when it's being discussed so widely, it's in the press and everything, oh my, then people are convinced. Yeah, of course there is. Our local inflation gauge doesn't show any dramatic changes. It's been very stable for a while, and it actually was negative for a while, due to some government interventions that people didn't necessarily approve of, but nonetheless did sort of level things off, so to speak, during the period of the pandemic. But whatever, the case is that I think we're running around 2% or something of this sort. We were -2 at one point, so whatever. The key point is that is based on a Panamanian household, what they're likely to be spending their money on, and everything. And it's a different situation than it would be for you. So that statistic really isn't very meaningful to anybody coming down. There is none that really fits the same. We don't have an expat, because expats differ radically in what they consider to be expensive for one item or another. So one thing everybody can agree on is gasoline and diesel. So here are the prices right now and through April 22nd, for 2 octanes of gasoline, 91 and 95, and diesel. Get it up here. Okay. Yes, you will eventually notice an odd thing, and that is diesel is more expensive than the 2 gasoline prices. The gasoline purchase is purchased from one supplier, the diesel from another. One of them is more seriously affected than the other, and that has led to diesel being more expensive than gasoline. It's the first time in the Republic's history that this has happened. I don't anticipate it's going to be up there long, but who knows? The world is a little bit different than the one we're accustomed to. So we'll hope it gets better. But that's it. Now, I'm showing it in 3 different forms. The liter with the dollar sign. Okay, we sell gasoline by the liter. We used to do it by the gallon, now it's by the liter. And this is the dollar price. This is what you'll see in a station when you drive up to, or your driver drives up if you're taking Uber or something. This is the prices. Beside it, I put up the same liters, but in euros and euro cents, because that gives people in Europe who are coming, you're not going to see these prices because we don't have the euro here, but it gives you an idea. of what you're paying so you can make a comparison to your own situation. And then for the Americans who are still on the gallon, this is the gallon price over here, and that'll give you an idea of how it compares to yours. Now, in a country like the United States, it's always the case that there's a wide range of different prices depending on where you live in the country. So some of you probably have lower prices, maybe much lower, and maybe others substantially higher. I certainly heard a little bit about those recently. So, I mean, this is the way it is for us. This is where our prices are. We traditionally, and as far as Central American nations are concerned, the people up in El Salvador bring out every month the price of gasoline by the gallon. And they figure it out for us too, and they actually collect their figures from their governments, but then ours they just figure out. So they had Central America and Panama. We're the cheapest, almost always. I think maybe we're beaten once or twice by Honduras, by a penny or two. But the key point is, say Costa Rica, more than $1 a gallon more, about 27 cents a liter more. We are already fairly low in price, and this is, so if this seems terribly high to you, it is, as far as we're concerned, very definitely high. We expect it to go back down. People would like to see that happen sooner rather than later, but this is where we're at the moment, given our set of circumstances here. Now I'm going to take a moment right here and get another slide up that I want to talk about to sort of wrap things up for today. Give me one moment. Okay, took care of that. I just like to mention things every once in a while that pop up that interest some people, don't interest others, and so on, before I end up with a few comments on real estate a little later. But I wanted to share this because it's not the sort of thing that gets shared often enough. One of the big assists to helping Panama be successful has been its ability to develop a tourist business, is what it boils down to, and be an attractive country for something other than just the canal. And there is so much here, but it had not yet been developed. People hadn't really thought it through. They've been doing a lot of that over the last couple of decades, and we've made substantial improvements. We have a ways yet to go. But they're also out in front in some areas too, and I won't go into all of them, the intellectual, so to speak, and others. But this one that's coming down the road here is particularly impressive, and it's going to be called the City of the Arts. It is 84% complete, but it has been sitting there for several years. It got started. It was neglected for a while by prior administration, and then the pandemic didn't help any. So some result is that the whole thing has been delayed, but it is now scheduled to be completed by the end of the year. They seem quite serious about that. The president was just out showing it off, or looking it over, I should say, because it's not ready to show off yet, but we're getting there. Here's a photo of where we stand at the moment. Okay. I can give you a little description of what is involved. The City of the Arts is it's in Curundú, which is part of Panama City. It's an area that is going to be positively impacted by this. I'm convinced of it. Plus, it's over near the University of Panama as well, which is useful. It will be the home of the National Symphony Orchestra, the home of the National Ballet. There will also be a school of theater, a school of dance, a school of the plastic arts, which means not plastic so much as pottery and sculpture, things of this sort, and the National Institute of Music. In addition, it will have a cafeteria, it will have exhibition halls, it will have a library, a multifunctional theater, and it will also house the headquarters of what are called the Circle of Writers and the Writers of Panama. This is in English, and these are writers groups here in the country. So it's truly it's an arts center, and it's going to be a big one, a very impressive one. I think you can tell by just seeing it now, even though there's considerable work left to be done. Actually, most of it is done, and we're looking to make it pretty, and the parking area, which is the one that's really held things up. Any event, here it is, and it's this sort of thing that really catches. It's good for the kids, it's good for youth coming up, and it's also, of course, obviously for university students who can get a better circumstance for studying arts and for the music and everything that has to go with it. It's attractive. It can be attractive to tourists. It's definitely for residents like myself. I mean, the idea that we can go up now and we can, well, not now, but soon, and be able to hear presentations being made, which will be open to the public as well as to the students at the university and so on. I mean, this is great. I mean, this is a step forward. It's things like this. We have a biodiversity museum down here, which is really great. And Frank Gehry, the famous architect, designed it for us. And we have quite a few smaller museums in town that are really pretty decent museums. And a lot of it associated with the canal, too. So this is fitting in nicely, too. And it broadens our attractiveness to a wider and wider group of people. And we often remember, even for the business folks who come in, it's not all business. They have kids who want to be involved in the arts. They have spouses who want to have places to go and do things that are different. And they themselves like it as well. It's going to be well used. I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever. It's another step forward. After all, many of you come from cities that are larger, bigger populations than the entire Republic of Panama. So for us to have this sort of thing available is, well, it would be considered a frill in many societies. But here we do have the finance and we do have the money to do this. It may have been slow and it may have been way down the list of priorities because we had other things that had to be done first. But the point is we're not losing this. It could have been lost if we hadn't pulled together. And it's being pulled together now and it's going to be finished up. So it's something I like to mention because it's part of the experience in living in Panama, should you be here. And it also has an impact on the health, financial health of the country as a whole, which affects people's attitudes and the whole atmosphere of where you're living. Now, I promise to end up with a few comments on real estate. There have been people coming down. In my experience, many of them have been first-timers. They're checking out the country and so forth, and they're very positive experiences. So, I mean, that's all good. But they're at the beginning of this particular search for them. Others have come down looking for places to rent or to buy. Occasionally with the Metro Mass program, we'll host somebody out if they need it. There are plenty of agents here, needless to say, who are eager to sell you things or rent you things. But demand is still way below where we want it to be. The conferences and conventions that are coming down are going to help with that. But, you know, a lot of it is victim to the whole global situation of what goes on. However, we're confident that really, this is a terrible way to put it, but the situation in most of the world is so tense, so stress-inducing, and we're just so calm and at rest down here, at peace. I mean, we were having lots of powerful discussions on a whole bunch of issues of local interest and concern, but I mean, it's civilized. You know, we just talk to each other, come to a consensus, and move on. Actually, society is still working very hard together to get everything organized, get everybody back to work, and get things moving. And we've had this terrific upsurge in economic activity. But the portion of it that's the weakest is in the housing for expats or for people like yourselves at that level, money-wise. And it just is. We've got the properties. We've got something for everybody, and probably several of them. It's getting down here and finding it and so forth. It's sorting out through it all. And if there's any way we can help, we try to help. But the point is that now is a good time. Now, some people have been writing me saying, what about the rainy season? Honestly, I wish they would never have mentioned the word rainy season anywhere because people get this image of we're going to be swamped with water. No, it isn't that way. I mean, the steamy tropics, you know, the jungle and all that. It's April, for heaven's sakes. No, we have begun officially the rainy season, but that's just a bit. It will rain today. I guess it probably rained, I don't know, maybe the better part of 45 minutes or something. Maybe it was an hour or so. I just noticed it. I didn't have much impact. So, yeah, from some days it will rain, some days for short bits, but this is nothing. I mean, in talking about it, it encourages this attitude that this is a huge, important thing bring an umbrella. It's no big deal. Everybody walks through it. We deal with it. Commonly, it is, you're not going to be swept out to sea. It has nothing in common with the monsoon season in India or anything of that sort. We don't even, I think, up at the level that Seattle's in. I don't know that for a fact. But no, it's nothing. I mean, October, November in the city are the rainy months, and those, it can rain 4 or 5 days out of the week. Sometimes 3. Today, no. And if it does, it's relatively short. I mean, we like the rain. It's not a bad thing. It works. We enjoy it. We're actually comfortable in it. We move around in it without thinking twice about it. You'll find it's nothing like what you may fear in your mind at all. But yeah, bring an umbrella. Bring a little fold-up one you can carry around if you need it. And if you're like me, you forget and you have to go back and try to find it. You know, that kind. So anyhow, that's where we're standing, and we need you, and this is a good time to do it. It really is. It will pick up, and it's just a matter of time. But it is not. It has picked up. It just got more picking up to do before we're really going to be satisfied. In the meantime, you've got bargains. So come on down and get one if you feel like it. We'd be delighted to have you. Thanks. Have a good one. See you next time.